Yeah, so we I heard about Go Shout Love when you guys did sort of the local families up here in the Boston area, and we two of Gabriel's close friends, and my close friends, just from online communities and just from being local, were picked as that. So our friends Savannah and Silas. And so we, of course, like bought the t-shirts to, support them. And then, I'm sure I followed on social media at that point. And I just remember like every month I'd say, oh, look at this kid. Oh, look at this story. Like, I'm going to just buy this shirt. And then, and my husband, who's, well, how do I say, like we're hiding Amazon packages kind of a lot. Like I try to plan deliveries for when he's not home. And like, he's always like, do we need this? Like, do you need to buy that? Like what, like he has too many clothes. Like he doesn't need another t-shirt. And I'm like, oh no, Scott, this is look at this great thing they're doing. It's for these kids. Look at the kid this month. Like, look how fun, look how, we need to help this family. This is all we have to do is buy this t-shirt. And look, he gets like a free t-shirt and like we help this family.
So, yeah, I mean, I was apprehensive about the whole idea at first, but then when I saw the shirts starting to come in and the primary reason, I'm like, this is just such a wonderful idea. Yeah. It's great. And to have a collection now with a good reason. And then people at his school, even though who would go Shout Love and follow Go Shout Love. So they're like, oh, another Go Shout Love shirt. So that is like the icing on the cake.
We are extremely grateful to everyone who participates in Go Shout Love, monthly or otherwise, for families like this. I'm Seth Carnell, and this is the Go Shout Love podcast. This is part 2 of the conversation surrounding our feature kiddo, Gabriel. We are talking with Stephanie and Scott, Gabriel's parents. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, pause this and go back. There's a lot of context surrounding Gabriel and his background that will play into this episode as well. Now, today includes a lot of what is important for families like this, including experiences, living life to its fullest. We really didn't touch on the medical side in part 1. This episode includes a lot of that journey as well. Gabriel, in his young life, has been through a lot, procedures, therapies, and it shows in this episode how much of a fighter he is. Sometimes I'm amazed at how matter-of-fact the information comes across from parents like Stephanie and Scott. What I mean is, this is their daily life, and it is their, quote, normal. All of the therapies and the daily life challenges are simply their life. But what's equally fascinating is that how they describe their life also as joyful or fulfilling. Gabriel is their son and full of joy, and he brings that joy into this family. Leading this conversation is Josh Veach. Please take a second to rate or review this podcast. We would greatly appreciate it. And now, here is Josh.
I want to shift just a little bit. You've mentioned that that vacations and having fun is a big part of your family and dynamics, and specifically kind of giving Gabriel experiences. So, talk a little bit about that. What does that look like in your family, and the goals behind that, and what you guys have done so far, and what comes from that?
Yeah, we've gone to multiple places. We've gone up to like upper New England, up to like Acadia National Park. There's a picture I'd love to include in a montage of just Gabriel and I on the top of what's that mountain called in Acadia? Yeah, on the top of the mountain in Cadillac Mountain in Acadia National Park. There's just a picture of he and I, and it's just such a beautiful, pristine moment where he and I are on a ledge, and I'm embracing him, and we're looking at like the beautiful scenery as far as the eye can see. I mean, that kind of really depicts just the serene landscape, and he and I together. I mean, going there. We've gone multiple trips. We've gone down to Cape Cod. And then I think really the greatest thing prior to the pandemic is we had a chance to take him to Disney World for his birthday. And it was such a great moment to be able to like actually get him there, and everyone was so helpful, and handicap accessible rides and attractions for him. It just was it's quite hot, unseasonably hot at the time, even for October. But that was definitely probably the best moment I've seen him happy in like the entire time we've had him and in his care and everything. And it's just, I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's like the greatest place on earth for all people.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
definitely. Yeah, yes. We're huge fan. Mostly me. I'm a huge Disney fan, and I've kind of dragged the rest of the family into it. But it was just so great. And what else have we done? we go to places we can drive a lot, because that was our first flying adventure with him, and then of course the pandemic. So, sure. But prior to that, we went basically everywhere you can drive to within hours. So a lot of trips up north, to Connecticut and Rhode Island, the beach. We even just do a lot of day trips. Like, especially, during lockdowns, we would just kind of get in the car and drive to pick a spot and just drive to it.
Anywhere that's not your house. I feel like, yes.
Yeah. And especially with young kids, it's like, oh, don't we all want to just go in the car and sit in our seats and just kind of drive? So it was great, to just hop in the car and do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to jump to, a little bit of kind of the medical side of Gabriel's story, and get into what's progressed and what that looks like. So you mentioned that he was in the hospital for about 18 months from birth until he came home with you. So give us a little bit about his diagnosis, and how that impacts his day-to-day life.
Sure. So Gabriel was born at 25 weeks. So that's like a little over halfway. And he weighed only 1 pound. So he needed a lot of help to breathe. He was intubated, giving a breathing tube, and needed like CPR right when he was born. So he has, all of his sort of medical complexities are due to that. So he has a brain bleed from being born so prematurely. And then he also had a hypoxic event at birth where he was deprived of oxygen. So he sort of has 2 different brain injuries, like a stroke, a brain bleed, and then which is very common in little tiny premature babies. And then also where he was without oxygen. So he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy around like our first appointment when we took him home. So right around 1.5 years. And and we knew that he was going to, we knew that he would eventually get the diagnosis, and it's such a wide range. So at 1 year old, we really didn't know like what that would look like for him. Just that having the diagnosis on paper would open for services for him. So it wasn't like a blow to us in any way. It was sort of just a means to getting the supports that he needed. And then due to just being born so early, and having to be on a breathing tube for so long, it caused a lot of scarring in his airway. So eventually he was given a tracheostomy, which is just, the tube in his neck that he breathes through. And so he had surgery to open up his airway, and they actually went in and they took a piece of his rib and they tried to rebuild his trachea. And that was successful. So he can make noise now, where prior to the surgery, he would cry and it was just totally silent, and he couldn't make any noise at all. So now he now there's a connection between his, his mouth and his lungs where there wasn't before. So since then we've been sort of working towards potentially getting the trach out in a way that's like safest for him. And so this has been sort of our ongoing up and down roller coaster of this trach since we've had him. So we're still on that. We're still just on the path, and Gabriel is leading us as usual. And we're just all kind of following and see what where that's going to take us. He also has just some chronic lung disease from being born so prematurely. So he needs oxygen when he's sick, and he unfortunately ends up in the hospital, a couple times a year for, the common cold or the flu, that sort of thing. And, but definitely as he's gotten older, he's definitely gotten more stable, respiratory wise. And, I think that's it really. But he has a feeding tube. So he doesn't eat by mouth. That's sort of his choice. He's never eaten by mouth, since he was born. So it's just not something he's really interested in. He does, tolerate some taste sometimes. Like he likes mashed potatoes and he likes nacho cheese. But other than that, mostly everything is through his feeding tube.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to pick a couple things though, mashed potatoes and nacho cheese those are good choices.
Yeah, it's not too bad. He really likes cotton candy. So really he's a very healthy diet of cotton candy and nacho cheese. So
awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about therapies and what that looks like for him right now.
So for therapy, so he gets a lot of therapies in school. He gets physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and vision therapy at school. And we also do a lot of outpatient therapy, and we do intensive therapies too at a therapy place that's local to us, where he'll do about 3 to 4 hours a day of therapy for 3 weeks straight. And they say you get about a year of progress into 3 weeks. So we try to do that a couple times a year. And we've seen we've seen big gains, sort of to, someone looking in, when you're on this journey, what looks like a big gain to us, to someone else's, not, indetectable.
Different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But for us, and for Gabriel, any movement towards independence, anything that we can give him to, improve his quality of life and to, to help him at all, we definitely do that. So, we try to do those intensives a couple times a year, and we've seen a good improvement, and he does a really good job at them. Way better than I would do if you tried to get me to work out for 4 hours a day. Yeah. And then we do a lot of work at home. We do, I'm always scouring, different social media groups and talking to other parents of kids with disabilities, of like what newfangled, like funny idea they came up with that's working for their kid. And, you're giving them, this supplement. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Like, let me look into that. Like I'm always on board for the newest thing that people are trying. And if they have success, then I'm willing to try it. So we do vibration therapy, which is just this like wild shaky plate that he stands on. And like, it makes me sick to even look at it, but he loves it. And so he does that every day. And we just try to work with him at home as best we can. Yeah. And then in addition to his therapies.
Yeah. And so in those the 3 week kind of intensive therapies, are those, and you might've said this and I missed it, are those like targeted on specific things, or are those kind of wide ranging things that they work on during that time?
So usually it's targeted. Usually they ask you to come up with, sort of a couple of goals for the intensive therapies. And then the team is usually made up of, an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, and physical therapists. And the way that they work is they sort of, meet Gabriel if they haven't worked with him before, and they talk to us about, what our goals are. And then they meet as a group and figure out, okay, what are we each individually going to do to work on his goals? Like if the PT is going to work on this, then the OT is going to work on this. And then, and kind of make it so they're all sort of making the same, toward the same goals.
Yeah. So child specific and like integrated, the whole child.
Exactly. And so I think probably other parents go in with really set goals of what they want to work on for each intensive. We're more like, as long as we're heading in the direction of progress, like that works for us. So, we just finished up one a week or two ago. And the whole object, I just said, I just want to do his right hand. Like all I want to work on is, getting his right hand, whatever we can do with that. Mm-hmm. So they did, more targeted to his right side, but also they worked on, standing up and pushing through a bench to stand up with both hands, and learning how to crawl and using both hands, and pulling up on a ladder and sidestepping with both hands. And so I feel like they're like know way more than me about how to do that. Like they're the professionals. So I just kind of go in and just say like, we just want progress. We just want to be working towards something. So we're not really super goal oriented in that way. Right. So, we just want to be heading making progress.
Right. Yep. Yep. Very cool. This is a really open-ended thing, but it's one of the questions I love to hear parents' responses of, because it kind of gets to the heart of the relationship that you guys have with Gabriel. But if you could tell, and I'd love for you both to answer this, if you could tell the world one thing about Gabriel, what would it be?
One thing about Gabriel, I would say that he is aware, and that he knows sort of what's going on around him. And so to not have people assume that he doesn't. So, we always talk to him before we move him, and we always, warn him before, we touch his body. And I think things like that are super important and can easily be, you can easily not do it. So I think something so I think that's important. And that's what I love the world to know, is that with him and, with any child really, is that just to assume that they know what's going on and that they're aware, rather than to assume that they're not.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Probably could have worded that better, but sort of just to.
Yeah, no, I that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, for sure. Scott, what about for you?
Well, I would tell him that he's very lucky. He's a very lucky child to, go through survival up until this point, and giving him the best life possible, knowing that life is so fulfilling despite, setbacks, and giving him the chance at a close to perfect home life as opposed to being in the hospital. Mm-hmm. It's just so key. I think it's great that my wife networks with a lot of people through, different groups to meet and share stories and ideas with people. It's definitely a great networking system.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're getting close to wrapping up here. And I want to, this has been such a good conversation. I'm trying to figure out where to wrap it up and find the last kind of questions to ask. You guys have, what's cool about this conversation is that a lot of times we're meeting families and we're introducing them to Go Shout Love. They don't know much about Go Shout Love. They've maybe never even heard of us. But that's not you guys. You guys have, you've been aware of who we are. You've been supporting what we do. And so, which we are incredibly honored and grateful for. But tell us, how did you hear about Go Shout Love, and in what ways have you been involved in the community? And we know what your involvement has done for other families, but maybe what has that involvement done for you guys?
Yeah, so we I heard about Go Shout Love when you guys did sort of the local families up here in the Boston area, and we two of Gabriel's close friends, and my close friends, just from online communities and just from being local, were picked as that. So our friends Savannah and Silas. And so we, of course, bought the t-shirts to, support them. And then, I'm sure I followed on social media at that point. And I just remember every month I'd say, oh, look at this kid. Oh, look at this story. I'm going to just buy this shirt. And then, and my husband, who's, how do I say, we're hiding Amazon packages sort of kind of a lot. I try to plan deliveries for when he's not home. And he's always do we need this? Do you need to buy that? What? He has too many clothes. He doesn't need another t-shirt. And I'm oh, no, Scott, this is for, look at this great thing they're doing. It's for these kids. Look at the kid this month. Look how fun, look how, we need to help this family. This is all we have to do is buy this t-shirt. And look, he gets a free t-shirt, and we help this family.
So, yeah, I was apprehensive about the whole idea at first, but then when I saw the shirts starting to come in and the primary reason, I'm this is just such a wonderful idea. Yeah. It's great. And to have a collection now with a good reason. And then people at his school, even though who would Go Shout Love and follow Go Shout Love. So they're oh, another Go Shout Love shirt. So that is the icing on the cake. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So we eventually, after month of oh, okay, we'll just buy this one. Okay, I'll just buy that one. We subscribed to the shirts for Gabriel. And so when I was sending in pictures, shameless plug for Go Shout Love, that every single day half of his wardrobe is Go Shout Love. So he ends up wearing the shirts quite a lot. And when we go to therapy, they're always oh, which kid is this for? And sometimes we'll look and try to find them and see the kid. And even Gabriel's home nurses have a couple shirts from Go Shout Love. And we love to get to know the families, through the podcasts and through their stories, and usually end up following them on social media. And sometimes, just sharing ideas. I think for a life that can sometimes feel isolating, when you're on a journey, a rare journey, it's the amount of support that you get from other families there's nothing like it. And I think Go Shout Love is a big, huge part of that. And it brings, everyone's stories together, and, it's wonderful. So we're so happy to be a part of Go Shout Love officially, and to have Gabriel's own shirt. Every month I get so excited when I see that it's shipped, because that's usually my first glimpse of the t-shirt for this month is through the email that the shirt got shipped. Mm-hmm. And then I go on and then I get to find out about the kid. So we're really excited to have it be Gabriel's month. Yeah.
Well, we're so grateful. Thank you for those words. That's really, on this side of things, it's encouraging to hear those stories of how it sparks conversations with, the school or nurses, or to know that, it's bringing extra awareness and support to these other families ongoing. That's just really cool for us to hear. And so we're really grateful that you guys have made such an impact on so many families. And we're excited for October for you guys to be on the receiving end of that impact and that generosity. Yeah. And so for those of you listening, this is a great opportunity for you to follow in Gabriel's footsteps of being able to get on board with a subscription and be able to help families and encourage families and support families every month. Because it is, even for us, it's so much more than a t-shirt. It's conversation starters. It changes even for me when I'm wearing a t-shirt. I'm thinking of that child that is the story behind that shirt. It changes my attitude. It changes my perspective. It's more than a shirt. And so, shameless plug there, I guess. But we're excited, that, whatever whatever sales we're able to offer during October, we know that it's going to make a difference for you guys. And what's really cool is that you guys have already been making that same difference for other kids. And so we're excited to have you officially part of the Go Shout Love family on the receiving end. And we're really thankful that you guys have introduced us to Gabriel today and shared his story with us. And we know that that's going to have an impact on others through October and beyond.
At Go Shout Love, we do amazing things for amazing families with kids on rare medical journeys. And each month we shout love for families through the sale of creative apparel inspired by the kiddos. This month's A Smile is Music for the Soul design is inspired by Gabriel, a happy, charming, and music-loving 5-year-old from Massachusetts. Every purchase in October will be used to help cover the costs of intensive therapies for Gabriel that are not covered by insurance. Visit our website, goshout.love, to support Gabriel through the purchase of a t-shirt, sweater, hoodie, tumbler, or other items. It's really cool to feature a family like Gabriel's, who has already known and been an active participant of Go Shout Love, and now we get to turn around and shout love for them. Let's keep it going. Please share this podcast and our purpose with a friend or a family member. That only helps us to further and louder Go Shout Love. Thanks.